Hello, this is Dr. Iftikhar Ahmed Ansari, Department of Political Science, Aligarh Muslim University, AMU. Today I am going to talk about liberal state. Liberal state, its origin, that's evolutionary origin, and after that its nature, and then followed by its functions and area of activity. But in today's lecture, I am going to talk about liberal state and its evolutionary origin, that is the theory which is most accepted in the formation of liberal state. Now, so far we have seen the social contract theory, which is also a part of a liberal theory. It talks about the origin of the state, which is based on philosophical analysis. Now, this theory regards state as merely a man-made institution and is a speculative theory. If the state is regarded as a man-made institution, as this theory preaches, then one may easily conclude that as the state is created by man, he can destroy it. If he feels so, it's logical that man can destroy what he has created, provided it suits his interest. But liberalism cannot do without a state, that's for sure, in present century, because though it emerged as an anti-state theory by maintaining that state is a necessary evil, now it maintains that state is a welfare agency to serve the common interest of society. So the bourgeois state, whose interest is mainly in representing the philosophy of liberalism, is mainly dependent on the state for its security, safety and maintenance. Without the active help of the state, this class, that is the propertied class, the bourgeoisie class, cannot maintain its privileged position. So the liberalism cannot allow the idea that the state can be destroyed by man, because it has created it and the state has sustained him. Once upon a time, a state would have been a necessary evil for liberalism, but now it's a necessary virtue. So the special theory that we are going to talk about, and before that the social contract theory, has lost its respect among neo-liberals. Apart from this, historical, anthropological, sociological, scientific and other researchers have proved ample evidence regarding the evolution of the state. So state is a complex institution, and it's not a product of a social contract, it's a product of gradual social development, and more than one factor has contributed to its evolution. One cannot say as to when, at what point of time in history the state would have emerged, because as McIver says, origins are always obscure. The state, like many other social institutions, is a product of social evolution. Scientists have proved through different evidences and researches, and societies have lived without the state. There have been evidences, and at a certain point of their development, the state emerged. To know the evolution of state, it's important to properly understand how it emerged. We need to understand the factors which were responsible for it. So McIver writes, if you know that societies have lived without the state, if you know why and how the state has grown from small beginning to its great dominance, we may be saved from misunderstanding which beset the political thinking of our time. Thus, it can be said that the state has evolved, and the evolutionary theory of the origin of the state is another liberal theory, which is now widely recognized by liberals. Professor Garner says the state is neither the handiwork of God, nor the result of superior physical force, nor the creation of resolution or convention, nor a mere expansion of family. Further, Leacock says the state is a growth and evolution, the result of gradual process running throughout all the known history of man and reaching into remote and unknown past. Gettel writes, like other social institutions, the state arose from many sources and under various conditions, and it emerged almost imperceptibly. No clear-cut division can be made between earlier form of social organizations that were not states and later forms that were states. So the evolutionary theory of the origin of the state maintains that state is a product of a steady evolution process to which many factors contributed over a period of time. Now, if you have a look at these factors, what they are, we find that man by very nature, that is social nature, is the one factor. He wanted a society, wanted to stay in society in the company of his other fellow men, followed by kinship, a blood relation kind of a thing. Then religion played its own role in keeping the masses obedient and within order. Then economic factors were responsible for further development of state, as in the role of providing protection to the trading community. Then force or war was another factor which expanded the boundaries of the state and gave it a legitimacy. Then political consciousness among the people who thought it out of necessity to follow and obey state. Then apart from these six general recognized factors, there are other factors which are given by McIver, and it says like urbanization in the later phases after Industrial Revolution, then class division of society, then rise of sea power and race, nationality, then development of science. These have created their own reasons for the rise of the origin of state and its evolution in the later phase. So let's start with the social nature of man. How was this factor responsible for the origin of the state? Now, man is a social being and he wants to live with other members of society. Long ago, Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, explained this social nature of man. So, human nature is social, so social that and other institutions are also natural, as these are the necessities of man's natural instinct for companionship. So, man cannot live away from society. But when men live in a society together, they feel the need for some authority, which may control them and maintain order and peace in society. Societies have lived without states, no doubt, but societies have not lived without authorities. So because of social nature, society has emerged, and because of need of society, state has come into existence. Now, relation of society with state has been a matter of great dispute. In some societies like ancient Greek city-states, a state was regarded as coeval and coextensive with society, that it was considered part and parcel of the society itself. But modern states cannot be regarded as a coextensive with society. The modern state has emerged as an instrument of unity, law and order and peace, but as a promoter of common interest of the society at large. So it's merely an instrument, a servant of society. McIver has strongly opposed the idea that society and the state are coeval and coextensive with society. But modern states cannot be regarded as coextensive with society. Modern states have emerged as an instrument of unity, law, and maintaining order and peace in society, and as a promoter of the welfare interest of the general masses living in society. So it's merely an instrument, a servant of society. McIver has strongly opposed the idea that society and the state are coeval and coextensive. Now, second factor which has contributed in the origin of the state and its evolution is kinship. The early history of mankind and anthropological studies make it sufficiently clear that in primitive societies, social organizations were closely connected with kinship or blood relationship or family relation. Now, groups of individuals who considered themselves to be the same blood, they lived together, a communal life, and formed the family unity. Further, McIver writes, the first of all societies, whether in beast or in bird and man, is family. Similarly, Sir Henry Mann writes, the most recent researches into the primitive history of society point to the conclusion that earliest ties which knotted men together was the kinship. So the primitive family during the course of its development took various forms, but in the beginning it was mainly matriarchal, and descendants were traced through mother's lineage. Mother had power and they used to have command, but at the later stage of development, with the emergence of private property, the patriarchal family appeared, in which descent was traced through males and power rested with the older living male ancestor of the family. The patriarchal family included father, his wife or wives, his unmarried daughters, his sons with their wives and families, together with slaves and other family property. Later on, families developed into clans and tribes, thereby laying down the foundations of political authority in the form of the state. Now, McIver maintains that the authority of the father passes into the power of the chief. So, kinship creates society, and society at length creates the states. But Professor Gettel says it's probably not true that the state developed directly from the patriarchal family. The family was a social rather than a political unit, and the interest and authority of the family were essentially private rather than public. So Gettel maintains that the state developed more directly from a tribe. Now that was a larger unit composed of families and governed by a chief. So tribe was based not on kinship but on the need for the protection of common interest. Here it may be said that organization of tribes was more on the lines of family, and the tribal chief exercised his authority more like the head of family. McIver further writes, the natural authority of the pater families prepared the way for the tribal chief. So the combination of kinship and its contribution in the development of the concept of authority cannot be denied, as it gives a feeling of unity and social solidarity which is essential to political life. So words like senate, that is old man, or elderman, used frequently in modern days, have been adopted from family organizations. So the spirit of kinship still survives in modern nationalism and racism, like when we say German blood or German race or Aryan race or German nation are many a times used interchangeably. Now, hereditarily, rules maintain their authority on the basis of kinship, and rulers follow that hierarchy and maintain their purity of blood. So, even in modern democracies, we find nepotism is still very prominent of force, and politicians, they try to establish their family rule by giving undue importance to their sons or daughters. Thus, kinship as the basis of early social and political organization played an important role in the evolution of the state, and even now it continues to be an important force. Now, third factor which contributed in the origin of and the evolution of state was religion. Now, in the primitive age, unable to interpret natural phenomena with their limited understanding, the primitive man believed in supernatural forces, deities, magic, exorcism, etc. So the individuals with superior minds emerged in the form of magicians, exorcists, witch doctors, priests, and the victim of natural calamities, the common man, became a victim of belief in the supernatural power of these individuals to provide the comfort, the mental comfort. So animism emerged as the primitive form of religion, which believed in various gods like god of fire, god of water, god of wind. Later on, mythology, ceremony and prayer or worship of God emerged with a man's faith in the supernatural. So in the beginning, chief of the family used to act as a high priest of a family religion in which outsiders were not allowed to participate. In due course of time, the faith of man was commercialized and a new group of people grew up in the form of medicine men or priests with an authority to perform sacred rites, and at the later stage they preferred to be obeyed because they were the representatives of God. The preaching of various social reformers were regarded as messages of God, and the social these social reformers became prophet and gods. Various customs developed during the force of law because they had sanction of religion. So religion helped in the consolidation, stabilization and evolution of states and customary law. Kings or chiefs, in order to have a stable authority, they compromised with the priest, and this unity gave birth to stable state with hereditary kings. Now, relying implicitly on the ignorance of faithful people, the theory of the divine origin of the state was imposed on the people. And an unholy unity of cross, that is religion, and eagle, that is political power in the Western world, explains a lot of exploitation during the medieval period. So religion even now is a force in politics. Communalism is obviously the most obnoxious of manifestation of it in our times. The ignorance, orthodoxy, and blind faith, which are persistent feature of religion, in spite of their being most harmful to the development of humanity, played an important part in the evolution of the state. With the help of religious, unorganized, and barbaric people, this religion was able to maintain a hold on them and subordinated their feelings, and their obedience was gained, and a reverence was obtained, a kind of a reverence was obtained from them. So when the bonds of kinship were becoming weak due to expansion of families into clans and tribes, then religion could reinforce a sense of unity and respect for authority. Religion could maintain discipline and order in the primitive society by relying upon the fear of the unknown in the primitive man. It could create order in anarchy. Religion provided a solid black basis to black regimes of black monarchs in the black period of human ignorance. So religions used today in socio-economic and political spheres by the ruling classes to maintain their privileged positions, and it's a conservative force in our time. Now we move on to the next factor which contributed to the origin and evolution of state, and that is economic factors. Now physical needs of men pushed them into some kind of economic activities. Gettel writes that the economic activities by which men secured food and shelter and later accumulated property and wealth were important factors in state building. Economic activities or production need cooperative efforts, and thus they always have a social character. Primitive men passed through three stages: hunter, herdsman, and husbandman. So in the hunting stage, they used to move in groups and enjoy the fruits of the labor in common with all the other members. They lived in this primitive communal society without any concept of private property. Now, at this stage also, some authorities was there, but it was negligible, and men lived in the condition of primitive savagery, moving from one place to another. Now, hunting was essentially cooperative, as no single man would go for hunting, because in that case, instead of hunting, he himself would get hunted. But as the society evolved and man entered the second stage, that is that of a herdsman stage, there was some accumulation of property in the hands of some. People had classes based on wealth emerged, and some social rules, customs, and laws also came into existence to safeguard their property. Now, in the third stage, that is husbandman stage, people settled at a particular place and started cultivation. So, at this stage, well-settled territorial societies emerged, and the state emerged in an early or elementary form with population, territory, organization, and authority. Landed property, slave owning, craftsmanship, trade, commerce, they emerged, and class division based on wealth increased further. Now, the class division that emerged with the division of society into classes, class struggle began, and instead of primitive societies, civil society came into being with power to protect the property owners. Now, this power could help the property owners in enjoying their property to the exclusion of others. It further helped them in subjugating and exploiting the propertyless class. Now, Rousseau, Marx, Engels have given importance to this fact, and liberalism also gives some importance to this class division. And Gettel writes, the differences in occupation and in wealth created social classes or castes, and the domination of one class by another for purposes of economic exploitation was an important factor in the rise of governments. So as wealth increased and the idea of property and private property developed, laws were needed for the protection and regulation of property rights, the mode of production and the relation of production. They changed, and with the development of society and along with these changes, the pattern of classes also changed. With the change in the pattern of classes, the type of state also changed. In the ancient period, the state mainly belonged to the slave owners. In the medieval period, to landowners, and in the modern period, it belongs to capitalists. So, liberal writers have given some importance to private property. In The Origin of the State, Adam Smith maintained that where there is no property, there is no need of government. Similarly, Hobbes, Locke, and Montesquieu have also established a relationship between state and security of private property. Marx and Engels regarded the class division and class struggle as divisive and most important factor in the origin and development of state. Thus, economic activities and origin of private property have considerably influenced the origin and development and change of the economic organization. Along with that, the political organization. Even now, the economic factors play an important part in. With that, I come to the end of the presentation. The rest of the presentation on the same evolutionary origin of state will continue in my second lecture. Till then, thank you.